Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am going to be talking about all of the books that I hauled in the month of January. This is the first book haul of 2024 and I have 10 books to share. I have some fiction, non-fiction books, books in translation, obviously Canadian books, that's a given, some mystery and a rom-com. So hopefully there will be something for everyone here. As always, I'm going to start with books that I've received from publishers and from authors and Zedgy Stories. So first up is a book from Book Hug Press. And it's called The Singularity by Balsam, Karam. And this is translated from the Swedish by Saskia Vogel. And Fredrik Backman, who is an author that I love, blurbed this book by saying, "I don't know anyone who writes like Balsam Karam. She blows me away. Truly one of the most original and extraordinary voices to come out of Scandinavia in forever. You'll realize 20 minutes after you finish the book that you're still sitting there holding on to it." So many of you know Fredrik Backman from A Man Called Ove, from the Beartown series. So I just thought that this was pretty high praise. And this story draws, I think, on some of Balsam Karam's own experiences of being a refugee. And actually, perhaps maybe what I'll do is read the blurb, which is also on the back of the book. I just think that it explains this really well and it compels me to read it. It says, "In an unnamed coastal city filled with refugees, the mother of a displaced family calls out her daughter's name as she wanders the cliffside road where the child once worked. The mother searches and searches until, spent from grief, she throws herself into the sea, leaving her other children behind. Bearing witness to the suicide is another woman on a business trip with a swollen belly that later gives birth to a stillborn baby. In the wake of her pain, the second woman remembers other losses of a language, a country, an identity, when once her family fled a distant war." So I just think that this sounds very intriguing. And it's a quick read coming in at just over 200 pages. Next is a book from House of Anansi Press. They sent me the arc of Rabbit, Rabbit, Rabbit by Nadine Green. And this is being published April 16th, 2024. And I am very excited about this one for a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is the setting. It takes place in Whitehorse, Yukon, which, as I learned, or maybe it was reaffirmed for me last year, when we were doing the Reading Across Canada challenge, that we don't have nearly enough stories that take place in Canada's north. So this story is about Millicent, who is 24 when she moves to Whitehorse. She meets Pascal, who is living in a converted school bus in a Walmart parking lot. And this relationship quickly turns toxic, and Millicent must make a decision about what to do with this relationship. So I'm interested by this title as well, since I think that this is from the superstition, like that people say rabbit, rabbit, rabbit for good luck. So I am interested in seeing how, the title kind of connects to the story. And then the third book is also coming out in April, and I received an arc from a local author here in Calgary. And this is a memoir called All You'll See Is Sky, Resetting a Marriage on an Adventure Through Africa. And this is by Janet A. Wilson. And this book sounds interesting to me for a few reasons. First, it has travel and adventure, and I love both of those things, but it connects those things to exploring and overcoming obstacles and healing. And together, Janet and her husband travel 25,000 miles across Africa There's tragedy, according to the back. There's tragedy, and Janet is arrested, and there's transformation. And I'm looking forward to getting to this one and seeing what that's all about. The fourth book on my list is one that I've already talked about probably like 10 times, because it's been on my recommendations for my list for reading across Canada, I think at least once, if not twice. I've talked about it among some of my Canadian prizes, because it's won some of those, and it's one of my most anticipated books to read this year. And it's In the Upper Country by Kai Thomas. I was waiting for the paperback, and it finally came out in January, so I pre-ordered it, and now I need to read it. This takes place in the 1800s, and it connects the lives of Black people to Indigenous peoples in Canada, which I am very interested to read about that, and I've just heard such great things about this book. The next three books I picked up because they are the Canada Reads shortlisted books, the ones that I haven't read. I've already read two of the shortlisted books, but these are the three that I need to get to before the debates, which are at the beginning of March, so I need to get going on this. Once I've read these three, which does need to be soon, I will then talk about the shortlist and attempt to predict the winner of Canada Reads in 2024. So the one that I am currently reading, and I would say the one that I am most curious about out of these three, and it's because of the structure, and it's Denison Avenue by Christina Wong, and it's illustrated by Daniel Inez, and I'm showing you this because it's pretty interesting. So this takes place in Toronto's Kensington Market and Chinatown communities, and it has themes that I love, aging and grief, and people have called it a graphic novel, so there were some questions about that when the long list first came out, when it was first announced. But this book is not a graphic novel, but there are illustrations. So I will talk more about this when I go through the shortlist with you. The next Canada Reads book is Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune. And this book has been, I would say, a bit polarizing in the Canada Reads world. There are people who think it doesn't belong on the shortlist. Some have said it's not literary enough, it's too chick lit-ish, and there's others who have said they can see a defense for it and that it deserves a chance. So right now, because I haven't read it yet, I am giving it a chance. I am in the camp of giving it a chance. Does it seem out of place at first glance? Maybe. But there are no rules in Canada Reads, about what genres are up for debate. It's one of the things I think that makes the competition so unique. And I've never heard of this author before. I've never read this author. I think it's only her second, maybe her third book. So if nothing else, I get to learn about a new author, a new Canadian author, and I am totally good with that. The last book that I have to read for Canada Reads is The Future by Catherine Leroux, and this is translated from the French by Susan Ouriou. Yes, that's correct. I wanted to make sure. This is like a science fiction dystopian book of the shortlist, and the story reimagines a world in which the French never surrendered Detroit. So that will be interesting to see how this goes and where it takes us. The final three books are books that I hauled in January and I actually read in January. So these three books will be part of my January wrap-up as well. And first is a romance novel, and the first in a series, and it's Part of Your World by Abby Jiminez. This is the boy meets girl and they both come from two very different worlds trope. How will they ever make it work, or will they make it work? So Abby Jiminez quickly became a go-to author for me when it comes to rom-coms. So hopefully I can also get to the second book soon, and I'll be talking more about this. Another author that has become a favorite for me in the last couple of years is Australian writer Sally Hepworth, and I picked up The Soulmate, which is a mystery thriller about a couple who live in a house near a cliff. And it just happens that many people go there to jump and take their lives. And the husband has saved many of them. And then one day he goes out to help a woman. His wife is watching from the house, and she turns away. And when she looks back, the woman is gone, and her husband is standing with his arms outstretched as though he has pushed her. So I will tell you a lot more about this when I do the wrap up, and of course no spoilers. And then the last book on my list, this has been on my radar for a long time, and it is currently getting a lot of hype because of the movie, and it's Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. And this is the story of the murders that took place in Osage County in Oklahoma in the early 1900s. And the indigenous people on the land were the richest in the world, and they were being murdered one by one. And this case is what started the FBI, so that's very cool. So I haven't seen the movie yet, which has a star-studded cast, and it has, I know it was nominated for a million awards, and I'm sure it took some of those awards, but I do want to take the time to see it. It's 3.5 hours long, so it will be interesting to see how they tell this story on film, because it is an incredible story. So again, I will say more about this in my January wrap-up, which will be posted soon. So these are the books that I hauled in January. Thanks again to Zedgy Stories, to Book Hug Press, to House of Anansi, and to Janet A. Wilson for the books that you have sent me. Have you read any of these, or are you interested in reading any of them? Please let me know in the comments below. I always love chatting with you there. And let me know if you have any books that you hauled in January that you are most excited to read. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.